My name is Mirko Presser. I'm from the Alexandra Institute in Denmark. It's an advanced technology institute, partially public, partially private funded, on pervasive computing. And there I'm the head of research and innovation for the area of smart cities. The Internet of Things is a really new and exciting area. I've been working in this area for the last 10 years, let's say, in EU projects and trying to promote the idea across Europe and globally as well. And I see huge potential for society to actually revel in this fantastic technology. Of course, like with any other technologies, there are fears about its use and misuse, but essentially I see that we can increase efficiency in our public and private sector. We can create new services that are useful for people to save time and money, to be more entertained, to live life more to the full. And I also see enormous potential for new business to be created out of the technology. So it will foster a lot of growth for the people that would like to take a risk with a new and disruptive technology. I think we're only starting to see the beginning of the Internet of Things. Of course, for a long time already, we've had systems like SCADA systems that are used by utility companies to measure the performance of a network that could resemble an Internet of Things in one or the other way. But we're only starting to see the full potential of this technology. Last week we had Cisco at the Internet of Things World Forum present that there's a potential $14.4 trillion in potential value in this industry. And I think he's not too wrong with it. The problem is maybe that we still see it too much locked into the different silos. Looking at transportation, for instance, looking at healthcare, looking at logistics. They're all sitting within their individual silos. So if we really want to unlock this, we need to take a leap of faith, combining those industry sectors, making co-investments to actually get the most out of it. So I think now is the time to actually start creating applications that create confidence within the consumer side as well as the industry to see the potential of it. When I started working in the area of Internet of Things, the sort of devices that we were able to play with were the Telus B, for instance. These were devices that cost you, let's say, 100 euros at the time. So it was very expensive to actually build something out of those things. And they were also not very reliable. They were battery operated and batteries lasted for very little time. But with the progression of the field and Internet of Things, these device costs are brought down and battery lifetime is extended. You also find now devices that are almost self-sustainable in terms of energy harvesting. So as time progresses, this will just become cheaper and cheaper. So I think maybe we're at a tipping point where we can actually say that it's easy to pay for systems because they pay for themselves in a reasonable amount of time. I think it's crucial for the Internet of Things that platforms are created openly or open and non-proprietary. It will foster a much greater innovation environment for smaller companies to join, for public institutions to have better trust, to create collaboration beyond the boundaries of walled gardens that we know of from, for instance, the telecommunication industry and that haven't quite worked out. So I completely support sort of the visions that, for instance, projects like FI-WARE bring forward in creating these non-proprietary open platforms. Whenever we are told that there's value in something, we have an instinctive reaction of holding on to it. I think this is a traditional, old-fashioned way of treating business opportunity. I think that this new century is bringing a new way of working forward. So now we can see that professional created content, for instance, is not preferred. It's the amateur content, for instance, on YouTube that is preferred, that creates the customers and creates collaboration in the new content. And I think the same way we need to see in open data, that we cannot have organizations holding on to their data for dear life, because the data is only valuable in one context, their organization. It only becomes valuable if you put it outside the organization, combine it with other organizations' data to actually create real value. So we need to find incentive models that actually track back the value of the bits and pieces that are not really valuable in a sense. So it's like building a car, you know. The sum of its pieces of a car is actually more than just the bits and pieces that are there. So it's the same with data. We need to explain to people that that's actually the truth. And that's a very hard part to do. But I love the concept of combining open data with the Internet of Things and the cloud to actually create a platform for society to have a knowledge sharing, an understanding of how we're living, what our behaviors are for the environment, how we're driving innovation and so on.